Good morning, it's October 15th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. Well, Joe Biden keeps getting angry that the public's not getting how good his Bidenomics program is for them. He lashes out at the media for not proclaiming the benefits of what his economic agenda has produced. But this is typical of Joe Biden because in his feeble mind at an advanced age, he does not have to deal with what everyone else has to deal with on a daily basis. All of us in the voting public remember when inflation roared to a high of 9%. We remember when gas prices approached $5 per gallon. We saw our buying power reduced, and we all had to make some choices in what we're going to buy and what we're going to do without. But if you listen to the White House and their acolytes in the liberal media, they will constantly tell you how inflation's been reduced. It's now down near 3%. Economists surveyed estimate consumer prices rose 0.1% in October from the prior month and 3.3% from a year earlier. And that would represent a slowdown from the September 0.4% rise to the 3.7 yearly increase. And those economists also think so-called core prices, which exclude volatile food and energy items, rose 0.3% in October from the prior month and 4.1% from a year earlier. The monthly gain would be roughly the same in September and August, and faster than more modest readings earlier in the summer. The estimated October annual increase would match September's rise. So they're telling you, well, we're slowing inflation down. But at some point, an inflation reading could make the Fed more comfortable with the progress it's made to slow price increases. And Tuesday, the data showed the inflation remained flat at 3.2% year over year. As I said, Americans paid less at the pump during October, which helped drive an easing in overall inflation on a monthly and annual basis. Gasoline prices continue to fall, but November, if the war in the Middle East escalates, they can start rising again. But that's where the good news ends. While inflation has come down, the cost of what we buy on a daily basis still remains high, and nobody's seen prices in the grocery store coming down. Nobody has seen rents for housing come down, and mortgage rates are now near 7% from the 3% they were when Biden took office. The real problem with Bidenomics is its political speak. It does not correlate with reality. This is the most important thing to remember about inflation in politics right now. Inflation is going down, but prices are still going up. Yes, inflation is falling sharply this year, but most prices have not fallen. Only the rate of increase has. When prices shot up to the insane level at the grocery store back in 21 and 22, well, they're still at the insane levels today, and they're still going up another 3%. They're just going up more slowly than they were back then. And that's according to a columnist in the New York Times, David Leonard. And nobody can mistake the New York Times as a cheerleader for conservatives. Look at the new Commerce Department report. At the grocery store, cereals and bakery products were up 4.2% in October, while soft drinks were up 3.3%. Meat, poultry, fish, eggs were up less, while fruits and vegetables were up only 1.1%. Only dairy products fell a minor 0.4%. But remember, these are all measurements on comparisons to the high price in 2022. They've all still gone up. And if you eat out, a meal in a full-service restaurant increased by 4.3% in October, and a meal in a limited service restaurant went up 6.2%. Services of all sorts were up 5.5%. Shelter was up 6.7%. Transportation, 9.2%. And this is the good news in the inflation report. What the public keeps seeing is that while prices are not increasing as fast, they're still increasing and wages are not keeping up. So what does this mean politically? Well, it's not a great rallying cry for Democrats to say the price of the grocery store rose to painful levels after Biden became president, but don't worry, they're still rising, but at a slower rate than before. Now, what voter is going to get fired up by that? And now this from another left-leaning outlet, Politico, and I'm quoting them. Earlier this fall, President Joe Biden's top aides met a pair of progressives who had arrived in the West Wing with reams of data and a private warning. Bidenomics wasn't breaking through. The White House had spent the past 3 months trying to build enthusiasm for Biden's economic record, spotlighting major policy accomplishments, and celebrating a surging economy that he planned to make central in his re-election bid. But voters, discouraged by rising prices and baffled by the Bidenomics brand, weren't buying it. End quote. Democrats are clearly upset with the messaging from the White House. Some have been even reported to be advising Biden's political team to heave the Bidenomics term into a dumpster. They fully realize that trying to make voters believe something they don't is a fool's errand, and attaching your name to that folly borders on being masochistic. Voter unhappiness with Biden's economic performance is at the heart of the recent New York Times poll that terrified Democrats. The poll shows former President Trump beating Biden in 5 of 6 critical swing states. Voters by a 59 to 37% margin say they trusted Mr. Trump over Biden on the economy, the largest gap of any issue, according to the New York Times report. Quoting them again, the preference for Mr. Trump on economic matters spanned the electorate among both men and women, those with college degrees and those without, in every range and every income level. End quote. Now, the Washington Post, remember, had a similar poll earlier, and they tried to downplay it as an outlier. Can't do that anymore. In summary, when you think about it, Joe Biden is losing in the polls to Donald Trump, a former president who is fighting legal battles all over the country and still seems to be favored over the incumbent. That says a lot about Joe Biden, and he does not get it. One final thing. I've not seen the video bearing witness, but I've read descriptions of it. It shows very clearly the brutality and inhumanity of Hamas terrorists. Every idiot on campus and other places demonstrating in support for Palestine should be forced to watch all 47 minutes of the video. They should be told they have to then say how they can justify these atrocities. They really can't. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.